Let's do it.
Okay. All right. I'd like to call to order the October 7th meeting of the New Canaan Board of Education. In front of you, you have the minutes from our September 16th meeting. If I could get a motion to approve those minutes. Julie, second. Jen, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. And moving on to the review and approval of the agenda, could I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Penny, second. Katrina, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Comments from the public. To ensure the public's right to be heard, the board has set aside time during the meeting for public comments. 2 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to each subject. Do I have anyone wishing to address the board this evening? Okay, if you could just introduce yourself and.
Up here?
Yep. Yes, please.
Sure. Thanks. Andrew Kosh. I'm father of 2 kids in East School, and I'd like to address the board in regards to the school start times question. I'm just generally opposed to any child starting before 8:15 in the morning, and I'll just touch on 2 quick points since we only have 2 minutes. Number 1 is sleep. So I know we would probably all agree that it's critical to learning and emotional development, both for high school, middle school, or elementary school children. Our pediatrician, who I think a lot of folks know well in town, tells us we are trying to get our kids 12 hours of sleep every night. So if I do the math and we had a 7:45 start time, 7 o'clock bus, I got to get my kids to bed at 6 o'clock, which I'm sure we'd all be pretty puzzled how we'd pull that off. The second reason is that I just love my kids. I'm a working dad. I commute from New York City. A lot of times I find myself running to get the 5:26 train from the city so that I could get home by 7 to see my kids for an hour before 8. And today I checked, I wasn't even in the state of Connecticut by 6 p.m. So in summary, it's not just parents like me that I think we need to think a little bit about here. It's also young families in New York that are thinking about moving out to New Canaan. They're young families, they probably have young children, and we do our best to keep real estate taxes low. We do our best to keep the train running into town, and I think we need to do the best we can to allow these parents to see their kids at night. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just introduce yourself, please.
My name is Jennifer DeLippi. I was here at the last board meeting. I will try to be brief. In educating myself since I was last here on the broader topic of sleep, it is apparent that children today are more stressed than ever. It's not just sleep. They are learning younger and younger of the complications of this world and are more aware of what they will have to tackle. Mass shootings, climate change, AI. My son, who is 10, quizzed me the other night, will there ever be a job for him because robots are going to take over? And it's no longer the thing of the movies, though I try to explain differently. Increased open displays of hate, bullying at every turn and on every channel, and they're easily on a crash course to burnout. Preparing them for the world is not only our job, but should be our number 1 priority. Their education is their force field, and sleep is their superpower that enables them to grow, question, and learn. The current course our town is taking with start times at 7:30 a.m. goes against over 16 pieces of research that we found just in the past week, which we're happy to forward on, that talks about the extreme negative effects on children. The Wall Street Journal just last week cited many towns needing to roll back similar efforts, with safety being a primary reason. Reflective materials were needed to be handed out to children to keep them safe while walking or being at the bus stop. Our schools, as I quote Kevin Moynihan, are our number 1 priority. Our town needs to attract new families. Changing the times that are unfriendly to children of all ages, women, dual working families, is a sure way to destroy our stellar reputation. Who amongst you will be accountable for falling test scores, increased tardiness, and the accidents that are bound to occur when start times are made at such unadvisable times? Sacrificing our children's best shot at education to save a fraction will not solve the larger financial issues that face Connecticut, and every child counts from the youngest to the oldest. Leverage the genius in this town and find a solution if the consultants, quite frankly, that we hired can't do it. Do what is right by them, respect the children you're appointed to support and provide for. Sleep is elementary. no school before 8 a.m.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board? Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening. Hi, Mary Ann Fichtel. My son is still only 3, but he will be starting at South. That's why we moved here in a couple of years. And on the same topic, I am very much in favor of all children of all ages getting enough sleep to function properly. I used to get up at whatever time it was in the dark to make concert choir super early in the morning, not here, but in Westchester, so I get it. But neuroplasticity is really what's at stake, and there's no point in having later start times for older kids if you have sabotaged sleep in earlier ages. At younger ages is when you wire the brain for healthy connections, to learn more. When I was growing up, we didn't start learning a foreign language till 7th grade. Now we start teaching the kids in kindergarten. There's a reason for that, because the longer you wait to develop those habits, to learn those new traits, the harder it is to do it. So if you want teenagers that sleep well, you need to have little kids that sleep well. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Moving on to reports and recognition. We will have our grade 9 to 12 assessment report with Mr. Egan and the New Canaan High School department chairs.
Well, thank you for having me here tonight. Truly, it's an honor to speak before you. Every night I can come and do that, but especially when we're reviewing how well our kids are doing. You know, truly, I've said it before, this is a special place, a special community, and truly our kids are excellent in a variety of ways. So to be able to present to you tonight is really an honor, so thank you. I guess we'll start with our philosophy of assessment. Now, I won't read the whole thing to you, but obviously we look at a variety of measures when we're looking to assess our students. Now, no one single indicator. And obviously everything is relying on the fact that we're looking at using that information to enhance student achievement. So, taking a look at our mission, again, I won't read the whole thing, but I'll just share our core values that we added a few years ago. But we want our students to be responsible, that they accept responsibility, accountable, that they're accountable for their actions. They're motivated, they seek excellence, but not perfection, and they're strong. They have a strength of character and resilience about them. You know, we have this vision here at the high school as well. We want parents to love sending their kids to school every day. We want this to be a fun place where kids love coming to school and they're excited to learn. And we want to make sure that we have employees that really want to make sure that kids can do the best they possibly can and feel valued and respected every day they come to work. A couple of things this year on standardized testing, a couple of dates of importance. The Connecticut SAT Day this year is March 25th. The other date was actually during our April break, so we have to go with the March 25th date. NGSS testing is the window of February 3rd to June 5th. And AP testing this year is May 4th to May 15th. SAT and ACT testing happens throughout the year. A special thank you to our department chairs, most of who are here this evening. Evan Remley for English, CTE, or Career and Technical Education, Jim Zambrano. Library Media is Michelle Ludler. Mathematics, Mr. Anthony Bloss and Becky Pavia. Phys Ed, Mr. Egan. He's actually doing another presentation in the auditorium right now. School Counseling, Cindy Rivera. Science, Tim Hague and Melinda Meyer. Social Studies, Robert Stevenson. Special Education, Dr. Tammy Hartman. Visual Performing Arts, Alan Sneath, and World Languages, Lizette D'Amico. So a special thank you to them for shepherding the good work that we're doing here at the school. I'll start off with some of our college statistics. Last year we had 2,413 transcripts sent to 386 colleges for 310 students. It's about 8, is that about 8 per kid? 8 per kid gets us to 2,400. Up from the year before, we have 96% of our students attending four-year colleges. I think it was 94% last year. 85% are attending colleges ranked that are most competitive, 30%, highly competitive, 42%, and very competitive, 13%. Interestingly, I'm not sure necessarily why, we have 10 students this year attending international schools, 5 the year before. Not sure why that's up, but we do have 10 students attending international schools. 2 students are attending a 2-year college, and 100% of our students have a plan following graduation. From our survey that the seniors reported out, accepted to their first choice was 54% of our seniors. Accepted to one of their top 3 choices was 85% of our seniors. Applied under an early program was 74%, and accepted under an early program, that's ED, EA, or rolling admissions, was 64%. Pleased with their outcomes were 94% of our kids. Submitted, and this was asked last year, so we got the data for you, submitted SAT scores only was 68% of the kids. Submitted the ACT only was 20% of the kids. Submitted both was 5.5, and submitted no scores was 6%, equals about 100%. We'll take a look at our college courses here at the high school. Basically, 78% of last year's students, grade 12 students, have taken at least one college level course. This includes Project Lead the Way, UConn, Norwell Community College, and our AP designated courses. It's been around 80% each of the years I've been here. So it's a consistent number. These are the number of students enrolled currently in our other college options, that's non-AP courses. Most notably, the economics courses have increased over the years to where there are 66 and 64 kids in them now. If we take a look at our advanced placement courses, we have a wide variety of advanced placement courses, a little bit more than actually others in our DERG that we're offering here, but they're all there for you, I don't need to read them. And if you take a look at AP and honors participation, again, we're about 80% traditionally. This year we're up a little bit from last year. If we look at the 2019 participation students, we had 224 students taking an AP course, 24 took an honors but not AP. Total about 81% of our kids, or 82% of our kids, taking an AP and honors course. Now this is an interesting statistic. So we have AP scholars. Now this is very unique, and this is really our students who are taking the highest level courses, and a high number of them. So for an AP scholar, you need a 3 or higher on 3 or more exams. An AP scholar with honors is a minimum of 3.25 on all exams, a 3 or higher on 4 or more exams. An AP scholar with distinction, a 3.5 average on all exams, a 3 or higher on 5 or more exams. And then a national AP scholar, a 4 average on all exams, a 4 or more on 8 or more exams. So if we take a look at the numbers there, the number of scholars, we had 66 AP scholars, 33 AP scholars with honor, 107 AP scholars with distinction, it's a pretty incredible number, and 31 national AP scholars. So if we take a look at how that compares to years previous, if you go all the way down to 2014, there were total scholars of only 127. We had 206 last year and the year before. Of note, though, is there were less kids in the building last year than the year before. So the one thing, again, if you look at this, and again, I think this is a good thing, but something to keep track of. We had 31 national AP scholars. That's 8 or more exams last year. Previous to that was 19 was the highest number we had in the building. So there are more kids taking more higher level courses than ever before, and they still continue to do very well. So again, 206 students taking, being AP scholars of one variety or another. If we take a look at our 5-year average on our AP courses, and again, I won't read the whole thing, but we do very well every year. We have consistent scores, and where we send our teachers to training, it reaps benefits for us. So most notably, of 2 years ago, we sent our computer science teacher, it's the third slide, I won't go there yet, to training, and we actually added another computer science course last year, and we had 35 kids in there, and they did very, very well. But if you take a look at all of our courses, we continue to excel in our AP scores over time. One thing of note, if you take a look at our world language, Spanish, if you were in a Spanish AP course, you get a 3 or better every year. That goes back to 2000, I think it was 13 I saw in the data. In that AP Computer Science I was talking about before, last year was the first year we actually taught the Computer Science A, the second level of the AP Computer Science, and 34 students took it. 85% of them got a 3 or better. Last year we had 1,083 test takers in the building, up from 845 in 2015. And while it says 87%, that's of those tests, get a 3 or better. It's actually 92% according to the College Board, the way they calculate the numbers. If you take a look, we continue to offer a high number of courses. This year, currently enrolled, we have more students enrolled than ever before in our AP courses. And we have a slightly higher number of students in our student body this year, but we have 1,276 students in AP courses right now. Last year, again, we even though we don't mandate AP tests having to be taken in the course, we give weight for if they take it. 95% of our students took the test. We want to make sure that all students take the test seriously as we go through it. You know, one thing we're looking at is a couple of students here or there, as they get to the end of the year, they senior year kind of get seniored out and don't necessarily. We've noticed some people not putting in all the effort that they hopefully could have. So that's one thing we're looking at as well. But we have 95% of our students voluntarily taking our AP tests, and again, we have over 90% of our students passing what they consider to be a 3 or better. Last year in grades 10 through 12, 45% of the student body were enrolled in AP tests. If you look at historical data, if you go all the way back to 2007, there were only 343 tests in the building. Last year there was 1,083. We've had significant growth in this building, significant growth really since 2016 till now, but over the last 10 years it's been an emphasis where we've kind of opened up our courses, allowed students to take courses, and we continue to get 90% of our students getting a 3 or better each and every year. Last year, according to the College Board statistics, 92.3% of our students get a 3 or better. The number on the right, why it's not there, it's the AP equity number, the red number that's over on the right there. Why that's not there, College Board had miscalculated it, and they had over 90% for that, and it's not right. It's in the 60s. It's probably around what it was the year before. But they don't have that number calculated out in College Board. This is a new chart this year for us, and this really takes a look at our advanced placement growth. So if we take a look at, let's just take a look at the far right column. In 2016, we had about 28%, I think, of our student body taking AP tests and passing, or the total enrollment in our AP courses, I'm sorry, was 28%. In 2019, that was 35%. That's higher than any other school in our DIRG, with a percentage of students enrolled in AP courses. And we continue to have the greatest number of growth as well in both exams, and the growth in scores of a 3 or better was also the highest number of growth in the DIRG. So I think that's pretty significant. You know, we've placed an emphasis on having our students try and take the most challenging and rigorous classes they could. They continue to do that. We've outpaced all the other schools in our DIRG in our growth and the percentage of students enrolled in those courses as well. So I think that's pretty awesome and a testament to our kids and to our staff as well. I'll flip to some other standardized testing. We don't have all of our ACT scores in right now. We do have our scores from that have been posted to the ACT dashboard, but they have not given us the state averages yet or the national averages. But we continue to do very well. We paced about the same in English. Math, there was a slight dip in the ACT. Reading, we're up a little bit. Overall, the composite's about the same, from a 28 to a 27.9. We do generally, and although it's not there, we'll do far above the state average in that regard. We continue to increase a little bit. In 2017, we had the highest number of students taking the ACT, but we're up from the year before 182 from 155 in 2018. I'll start to talk a little bit about SATs. In 2015, that was the last year, I guess, of what we'll call the old SAT. In 2016, we started the Connecticut SAT. You can see generally we've had significant growth every year. Last year, we're up from the year before. We had 6 to 18 for an average for both math and language arts. That's up from 606 and 605. Of note, the state average dipped a little bit, but yet we went up. Our males and our females are similar in scores. There's not a wide variation. So I think that's a good thing. If we take a look at our special education students, you'll notice we had about 501 average for language arts and a 482 for math. This is a tough area because the cohorts change dramatically year in and year out. So you might see us pop up to the top one year, slip down a little bit one year, but overall, it's something we want to focus on is making sure we differentiate to meet the needs of all learners. So I share these scores with you, but to know that there will be variation year to year in these scores. How do we compare to the DERG? New Canaan was #1 in the state and #1 in the DERG in our language arts scores on the SAT with a 618 average, outpacing everyone else in our DERG and the state. In math, we were second in the DERG and the state as well, with also a 618 average. Again, you'll see the state average is significantly below, but we continue to do very well in our DERG and very well in the state. The percentage of students meeting benchmark. In New Canaan, we were #1 in language arts again, with 94.2% of our students getting a 3 or better. And in math, we were second, with 81.3% of our students getting a 3 or better. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our department chairs to kind of talk about the things they're doing to maintain our excellence, and then we'll turn over some questions at the end, if that's okay. So if we could have Mr. Stevenson and Mr. Remley. Yes, sir.
This is what it's like working for him. You never know it'd be serious. Like, really? I'll stand. No. So good evening. We just wanted to speak a little bit. Principal Egan sort of did a kind of a flyby on some of the assessment data from 2019. And we've had some time to sort of look through a few of our instructional analysis reports. So last year we pulled a few items from old tests just to give you an idea of like some of the content domains, what those look like, and also how that matches up with our instructional program.
We wanted to get beyond the numbers here and give you some of how this plays out in the curriculum and in the classroom. By starting with the SAT domain and then drilling back through the rubrics that we use and things.
So I'm sure you guys remember last year when we were in front of you. It was a special moment for me too. But just a slide. I'm sorry we took so many slides up, but we're going to talk about grammar in a minute. Who doesn't want to talk about that for hours? But just a quick review of the 2018 kind of our key areas of emphasis. And then we'll kind of pan to 2019 and some takeaways that we've gleaned from that. So we talked about 2 content domain areas last year that I wouldn't say were necessarily a special emphasis, but they were certainly something that we were thinking about in our instructional program, and they were command of evidence and understanding relationships and analyzing text structure.
In both cases, they were things we were working on revising in the curriculum anyway.
So the areas of focus: develop scale common assessments, assessment language across disciplines, and continue to implement and revise benchmarks and formative assessments in a variety of formats. I apologize, our slides are a little sort of text heavy, but we felt, we debated this, whether it would be note cards or not, but we felt when people looking at it later could actually remember what we were saying or sort of the points of emphasis.
So for 2019, we chose 2 more areas to look at and drill back and look into the curriculum. And these were areas where our percentage wasn't quite as high in performance as other areas. But keep in mind, we're still 4 to 5 times the state average on these types of questions already. But there's still areas that we can look at closely. So to start, we wanted to look at words in context this year, something that both the English and social studies in those classes we're working with on a daily basis. So we gave you kind of the stem here. The reference to blank near the end of the first paragraph mainly has which effect. That's how that type of question may look on the SAT.
And it's a very, I mean, you sort of just tell by the stem, it's a very interpretive question. So I don't know how many of you have gone into like how the SAT has changed, but I mentioned last year the analogies. I think it's sort of, judging by the age of this room, everyone remembers like having to, sorry, like, oh, geez, B is to apiary. I got to think about this. And so they're not necessarily logical relationships. It's interpreting meaning. So it does necessarily tap into a reader's vocabulary, but there is also logical relationships. So these are they're highly interpretive questions. And when we looked at some of the item analysis, I mean, they tend to be some pretty achievable, and some that are highly difficult that even some of our best test takers struggle with. So we thought we'd just talk a little bit about what that looks like in our instructional program.
So students, and I'm skipping around here, I'll let you do the close reading. Oh, you already did that. So the document analysis. So we have students who are working daily with documents and looking at this kind of thing. Why is the author doing this near the end of that paragraph? What's the purpose? What's the intent? What's the point of view of the author that's driving these word choices? And then that even appears on our writing rubric where examples, details, and evidence artfully support purpose. And that's when our students are then using what they see in the documents to do their own writing. It plays out there.
So the other thing, and this is we thought worth mentioning, I've had a few parents, usually of juniors, sort of ask me about our grammar program, and I actually
you wanted to talk about grammar.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
I can talk about grammar. No, I'm kidding. Our grammar program, it was. I think sometimes when things aren't visible, the assumption that it's not happening. And I guess there's no way to suck the energy out of a room than to talk about grammar. But I thought at first the test strands are called evidence-based reading and writing. And there is a writing section. So they do ask you questions where you're doing error correction for different stems. So here's an example of a stem. The spaces are usually stocked with standard office equipment such as photocopiers, printers, and fax machines. So what you would get is, I didn't give you the whole question, but they would give you a few examples. Which change would you make? Oftentimes, there's also almost always in the SAT a no change. In this particular one, yes, you would use a colon. How about that? And that's actually like a favorite one of the SAT. They love to see, like, do you know when it's appropriate to join two independent clauses? Or starting a list in this particular case. So. One of the things, too, just to emphasize is we've been talking about this in our PLCs and our department meetings, is that traditional grammar instruction, and probably as we remember it, the evidence has been pretty clear, actually, that it does not work. It's not effective in that sense, to sort of the grill and drill. Grammar instruction needs to be contextualized, and it has to be applicable. So one of the things, like, for instance, joining two clauses is like a root part of our writing instruction, especially when it comes to topic sentences, thesis creation, things like that. And we have this sort of evaluatory strands in our writing rubric, and I'll let Bob speak to the other one.
Right, so we expect to see these conventions in practice in their writing when they're, for example, working on document-based writing. And right from that rubric, grammar, transitions, usage, and mechanics often serve to enhance meaning and make arguments easy to follow. That's an expectation on every piece of evidence-based writing we do with students.
So sort of pivoting future goals. So, I mean, I think we want to emphasize, we're really proud of our instructional program. The results have been, we've been very pleased with them. Doesn't mean there isn't room for improvement, but we sort of take the look at this as a sort of steady hand on the tiller and small adjustments rather than sort of sweeping change. So some of this reads pretty similar to our 2018 goals, and that is by design. But continue to develop and target instructional resources for skills and usage, and continue to develop and deploy curricular resources such as PLCs, conferences, and other enrichment activities.
We will continue to utilize benchmark informative assessments. There are several of those throughout the year. And then of the learners who have not met the state benchmark, the 6%, nearly all of those students are already in or have already taken a support class, direct support class, such as Writing Center, reading workshop, or other.
And actually, too, just to that point, the 6% that did not make state benchmark in the April 2019 SAT school day, I'd say nearly all of those, with maybe one or two exceptions, actually does make state benchmark on subsequent testings, usually in the fall of their senior year, or even perhaps in the winter. So it's the overall yield is as close to 100% as you could be without being 100%.
So with that, we'd like to turn it over to Anthony Bloss and Becky Pappy.
So I will not be speaking about grammar. So we can start with that. So you guys saw the scores. We do very, very well. And what's a challenge for us is, how do we continue to grow? How do we continue to improve? How do we continue to give our students real-world experiences and assured experiences? So I'm going to talk more about what we're doing on a day-to-day basis in our classrooms to help our students continue to grow. First things first, make the math relevant. That sometimes becomes more and more difficult when you get into the higher and higher level classes. Calculus has a ton of applications, but a lot of those applications apply to even higher level science classes and higher level, engineering courses. So as best we can, we are continuing to, one, gauge what interests our students have and utilize that information to make the work as relevant as you can. Now, the math itself is exciting. My department loves what we do. I mean, we exude, excitement. I think sometimes the kids, wonder why are we so excited about what we're doing and why we love it so much. But they need to understand why it's so important and why, a lot of them have aspirations to be engineers, to be scientists, and they need, we need to continue to show them why the mathematics that they're learning will allow them to be better at that. So we are continuously researching and looking into ways to make the math as relevant as you can. One thing that a lot of the members of my department are doing, which is wonderful, we're creating video tutorials where we're actually, taping ourselves as we're working, sort of like a Khan Academy, except it's us. Students love that. They love the ability to be able to go back, and if they need to review a problem or a concept, hearing your teacher's voice and having them explain it again serves them well. So more and more of our teachers are actually utilizing, the technology is there. The technology today is unbelievable. The things that you can do to better your craft and to allow your students more opportunity to have access to you, we're going to take advantage of that. So a lot of my teachers are developing video tutorials and sharing them with their students in order for them to, again, if they need to revisit a concept or a topic, they can do so. Differentiation is something we're always striving to be better at. It's so important in what we do, but it can honestly be difficult at times. So we are constantly looking to differentiate all portions of our lessons, whether it be the presentation, the way that we generate projects and homework, the way we conduct our group work. We're always looking for ways to allow every single student in that classroom the ability to grasp the concept. And that's ever changing. Classes change year to year. The classes change. It's amazing sometimes when you teach two sections of the same course. The differences within each of the two sections is unbelievable. Could be based on the makeup of the children or the time of day. There's a lot of factors that go into it. And we're continuously ensuring that we're doing the best we can to differentiate, to change things up, to give each of those students the best opportunity for success. Is that the rain? Wow. For success. What else? Standardized testing. I know that my buddies over here talked a lot about, delving deeply into standardized testing. I took a very close look at the 2017 school day SAT because I wanted to see, our scores again are very high, but I wanted to really delve into it and see, maybe where could we possibly be behind, or where can we work or strive to be better. And it was pretty obvious when I looked at it. Struggle's a strong word. Our results on questions that related to interdisciplinary concepts, i.e. relating the math to either a social studies or a historical topic, or relating the math to some type of science topic, we weren't doing as well as we were on your clear mathematical questions. And to that end, one of my goals this year is to work more closely with the social studies and the science departments to try to create experiences where the kids can use concepts and topics from a variety of disciplines. I mean, statistics can be used in pretty much anything you learn in a statistical course can be applied in a variety of courses throughout the school. So we're going to really, really look into that this year and try to give our students that ability to take the math that they're learning and apply it in some of their other courses. And we will continue, like I say in the slide. We're going to continue to look at the standardized testing to see where we can improve and where we can give our students a better opportunity to have success in those types of questions. So we will continue to do that. How do I do this? I think we're doing we've really improved in my 6 years as department chair, and even before that when Jen Lee was department chair. We've created several interventions to help students who have demonstrated gaps in understanding. I can give you a couple of examples. 2 or 3 years ago, we developed a course called Integrated Geometry, which is for 10th graders who demonstrated, when they took Algebra 1, that they lacked good understanding of a majority of the important concepts. So we developed this course that revisits many of those important topics and concepts whilst introducing them to many of the important concepts of geometry. And it's just another opportunity for these children to be exposed to and to hopefully better grasp important concepts in Algebra 1, such as systems of equations, solving and graphing linear equations, things that are never going to go away. These are concepts that rear their ugly heads in every single math course they will take for the rest of their lives. So that's one example of an intervention. We have a math center for students in Algebra 1 who have demonstrated, and again, our 8th grade and 7th grade teams do a very good job of using a variety of data to determine which students need that additional support. So we have students that spend 4 days out of the 8-day cycle in a math center with a certified math teacher, revisiting and going over the concepts they're learning in Algebra 1. One thing that we're currently discussing as a department is we want to give some of our 12th graders an opportunity to continue to be able to take 4 years of math. Currently, we offer, for our M2 students, a financial math course and a statistics course. And we're looking into possibly creating another course or amending the courses we offer to, again, make sure that we're giving every one of our students the ability to be able to successfully complete 4 years of math. So we're constantly looking of ways of intervening and helping those students who need the support, and we will never stop doing that. Wow. Common assessment language and scoring across courses and levels. This is another part of my goal this year, is to continue the work we started over the last couple of years to ensure that we're grading consistently and that our rubrics are been deemed by the team to be adequate. And we're creating more and more benchmark assessments in most of our M2 courses now have a first and third quarter benchmark. Our plan is to continue to create those benchmark exams so that we can give kids an idea and give ourselves an idea more frequently, once a quarter, as opposed to at the beginning of in the middle of the year, at the end of the year. How are they doing? And then how should that information inform our instruction going forward? So that is another thing that we are going to continue to work on going forward. Again, investigations and lessons that require the use of higher level thinking skills and reading for information. This goes to, again, making it relevant, making them truly think about what they're doing, not getting caught up in the pure mechanics of algebra or the pure mechanics of pre-calculus or calculus. Understanding the why, not just the what. Giving them the opportunity to delve into real data and create mathematical models and answer questions to help them, math's used every day to solve problems and to predict the future. That's why, mathematicians use math. It's so that they can solve a certain problem or, use the data they have to figure out to see if they can figure out what's going to happen down the road. And those types of skills and thought processes need to be developed and honed now so that when they get older and they're using this stuff, it's not the first time they've seen it. So we're going to continue to challenge our students to think about things and not just because with the stress and a lot of our students want to do well, and sometimes they get caught up in just getting it done and doing algebra is very sequential. It's very step by step, and you can sometimes get caught up in that and not truly understand the why. So we're always creating questions and problems and projects and investigations to allow them to understand the why. And continue the good relationship we have with Zoe Robinson and the K-8 team to develop ways to identify students earlier and earlier that may have gaps in understanding so that we can institute interventions more timely. And I can say Zoe has done a tremendous job identifying those kids, and we've I can tell you at the high school, and I spoke to them a little bit earlier, we've put some interventions in place to help those kids when they get here, truly, we give them much more of an opportunity to grasp and to understand those concepts. And we'll just continue to work with that KA team. We invite them to a lot of our, usually 1 or 2 department meetings a year. We'll invite Zoe and the 7th and 8th grade team to talk about what we're seeing, concepts that may be a struggle for kids, and then think about how we can help them, or help those kids who are struggling, get to where they need to be. So I don't know who's next. I believe it's the science team. So Tim and Melinda, come on up. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you again for the opportunity to come and share an update from our science department at the high school. As we wait for the public release of our next generation science standards assessments, we thought we would take you through a timeline of our transition to the NGSS, as well as our preparation for this for the exam that we just took this past spring. So if you look back, we're going back in time to 2012. And this is when the state released, or the nation released, the K-12 framework for science education. And the framework sets the vision and the philosophy and the research behind science education and instruction. And then the nation will go and design standards against that framework. So the release of the framework was a big deal for us, and it kind of set the whole guide and pathway for us and the work that we had ahead of us until today. If you notice, in 2015, the state of Connecticut adopts the next generation science standards. So between 2012 and 2015, nationally and at the state level, we did crosswalks between what our current standards were and these new next generation science standards. So that as a state, we could make an informed decision of if we were going to adopt those standards. And our state looked at those crosswalks and the alignment, and we went ahead with the adoption of the next generation science standards. And then the work began within our district to align our units of study to the NGSS framework and the standards. So you'll see in 2013, 14, 15, 16, there was a lot of professional development so we could better understand what the standards meant and the impact that would have on instruction. We did it both in-house and also with partnerships with other organizations, such as the NGSX, Professional Development Platform. And then you'll see in 2017, we implemented the first aligned unit within the elementary school and the middle school. And at this point in time, we began to do professional development with the high school around the same standards that we have been working on K-8 and start their implementation process. And that brought us to 2018, where we did the first field test with our students, our juniors, and we didn't receive any kind of score or feedback. The purpose of the field test is really to test those items within the assessment banks and then be able to construct what would become the live administration in 2019. Also in 2018, we started to implement something called interim assessments, and those are generated by the state as well. And the purpose of interim assessments is to provide us as teachers formative assessment data about how our students are performing against those state standards. So we use them internally in the house and within our own house to see the alignment between us and the state. In May of this past year, we implemented the NGSS to our grade 11 students. And that brings us up to our current time, where we are still looking at administering interim assessments. We're waiting to analyze the data from last year, and we're continuing to deliver the professional development at both the middle school and the high school. And we have also implemented the first course that we have aligned to the new standards, which is our geophysical science course in grade 9.
So moving forward, Melinda took you through the last several years, both at the state of Connecticut level and within districts. So where to from here? We'll continue to offer a variety of courses in different disciplines in the sciences to accommodate all students' interests. And currently we have 19 courses offered at different levels, grade level, honors, AP, electives. Nearly all of our students take 4 years of science. And as of last year, almost 5% of students were enrolled in 2 or more science courses. So we actually have a number of students who graduate with 6 and sometimes even 7 credits of science by doubling up. We want to continue to challenge all of our students with lessons including lab experiences. All of our courses have robust lab experiences. Again, whether it's a grade level course, an honors, an AP, an elective course, we have lab periods every 4 days, so a very robust experience there. And as Anthony said regarding the math, we try absolutely to make these things relevant. Whatever the course is, students take them according to their interests and abilities, but we want to make sure that, that they're relevant in all aspects of their life. So all of these require high-level investigative thinking skills as well as reading for information. And I won't make any grammar comments here. Moving forward. We'll continue to support our high-performing students through expanded AP placement. We implemented AP Physics 1 a few years ago. There's been increased enrollment in AP Physics. We're up to 6 sections of that this year. AP Bio and AP Environmental Science have also shown significant increases in enrollment the past couple years, as well as the Science Research Program. We also use differentiation techniques in all of our classes to assure that all students can achieve success in areas of interest for them. And we're looking at continuing to look at our program's alignment with the NGSS beyond just the geophysical science, so looking at the normal sequence of courses, including biology, chemistry, and physics throughout this year and beyond. And again, as Melinda said, that 9th grade is really a springboard course. That's sort of the trial course at the high school. Most of our freshmen take that course, and that course is really going to be the precursor to the development of further NGSS alignment this year and beyond. So thank you, and we'll turn it over to Dr. Hartman for special ed.
Whoops, he already turned the page. So good evening, it's a pleasure to be here. And Mr. Egan, I want to thank you for saving the best department for the last. So In regards to the special education, we really are working on maximizing inclusion for all students. Our intent is to have students within the general education courses and curriculum to the extent possible, and the way in which that's done, you've heard extensively from all departments, the level of differentiation that goes across the continuum in all subject areas. And that really is the key in ensuring the access to education for all of our students. In order to ensure this equitable access to the education, we really look at delving into developing IEP goals and objectives that are very closely aligned with the general education curriculum. The state calls them standards-based IEP goals and objectives, which is really predominantly based upon Common Core, which the district is using as part of its curriculum. And we take a very serious look at that, where the child's gaps lie, so we can make sure that we're providing the scaffolding and the intervention and supports that those students need in order to be in those general education classrooms and meet with great success. In order for that to happen, we have very highly trained special education staff that's doing a phenomenal job collaborating beautifully with general education teachers, and the general education teachers are amazing at meeting with our special education staff, making those connections and talking about, what can I do to ensure that I'm meeting this goal or that we're filling in those gaps. And it's a strongly collaborative process that I think New Canaan is doing extraordinarily well with, and making sure that we have as rigorous of a curriculum for our special education students. Along with that is the skills-based classes, such as writing is a heavy focus, I think, for the district at large. It's a very complicated process. It's probably one of the most difficult things that students are required to do. So the high school does a really nice job at, again, in part of that differentiation and filling in gaps where students might struggle. There are skills-based classes where reading instruction is occurring, specific writing instruction is occurring, so that we can really fill in those gaps where students need the extra support. And as with anything, as we continue to move down the line, professional learning is extraordinarily important. When we talk about whether or not it's identity of autism or whether or not it's how to provide that specialized reading instruction, we have consultants that work with the team. They go out, they learn special skill sets, programming, etc. And that is extensive, and that also, again, there's a continuum where it includes not just our special education staff, but our general education staff as well. We have frequent staffings and talking to teachers about what the profile of the student looks like so they know how to meet those needs. And then I think the next piece is looking at the curriculum development. As our teachers are working with the general education collaborators, we really need to understand in depth what the curriculum is. And we have a co-taught biology class where the teacher is as well versed and can teach the class as the general education teacher, and that work continues to develop and grow. So that's it.
Great.
So, questions, discussion, once again, I couldn't be more thankful to be here, and any questions you might have, I'll gladly answer them or turn them over to our excellent team to help answer them.
Any questions? Yeah?
No comment.
I didn't say a word.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's always wonderful to see all the department chairs and hear all about the great things that are happening at the high school. So thank you again for coming on this lovely evening. I was looking at the AP results by the 5-year historical analysis.
Yep.
And kind of circling the 2019 results. Anything that basically was under a 90%, with a 3 or above. And I just wanted to kind of, and I guess it was under 90% and showed a declining trend over the 5 years. And so I wanted to kind of understand, based on the fact that, one, we're expanding AP participation, but also, you know, what are we doing in those classes? You know, it's not one department, it's sort of, you know, throughout all departments. And so I just wanted to kind of understand, you know, if I look at the lit and I don't know what comm is, lit and comm, or if I look at calculus AB.
If you look at the English, say, for example,
Right.
you'll notice a trend probably when we switched over to counting the junior year, and Evan, you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but making the junior year course really our AP course for junior year. So then the senior year, some of those kids who previously would have been required to take the AP class their senior year have already taken an AP class. Now, this is not an excuse. However, we noticed a trend since they're taking the one AP course their junior year. All those kids now take it then. That you see a slight dip in some of the scores the senior year, where they were previously higher. That was their only course. I'm not sure why that is, but we were talking about that today a little bit.
Okay.
And the lights flickered.
Can I
Yeah,
just ask
'cause
a
I'm-
clarifying
ahead.
question?
Yeah.
Are you saying that if they score well in the junior year in the AP in the college, that they're going to only accept one course's
Correct.
credit?
Okay, thank you for
Then they're
elaborating.
less motivated to do well when they actually sit for the test? Is that
It's a possibility. I'm not saying that's the
less
answer.
motivated to try? Sorry. Okay.
So-
Okay. It just-
Although, like is physics 1 typically, it would be interesting to overlay a senior level AP, which ones are taken senior year? Yeah,
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That'd be great if
Yeah, Bob.
any, 'cause-
You had mentioned, you had mentioned opening up enrollment, and that is indeed what's going on in many of these courses. We're accepting more and more of the appeals. The idea, I think, from a board goal is that you want all students to try and take on this experience. So we have very much opened these courses to students who are taking on a challenge.
And we consider that a good thing. You know, so
Yeah.
truly, if we expand by 30,
Right.
30 kids in a course, I think I saw what was the comparative government and politics, right? So that
Yeah.
they went up, the teacher went for training, she increased her percentage of passing rate. This year, there was a dip in the passing rate, but 30 more kids took the course in an open enrollment situation. So, you know, I look at that and I weigh the merits of 30
Right.
more kids are in that course, and
Right.
that's awesome.
Right. I guess I would like to overlay that against also sort of the guidance. I know last year we stopped looking at, you know, what percentage of kids got into their top 3 schools. That was a change last year. I didn't realize we were making that change. And, you know, I think it would be helpful to see both pieces of data. Who's happy with where they got in, but also what the trend is on our kids and what schools they're getting. Because these AP tests for our most gifted kids
Sure.
or most academically advanced children, these tests are critical to
Sure.
that. And so I think I would like, as a board member, I would like to see both pieces of data. One, are they happy? Because that, you know, with what's happening in college admissions, we all know what's happening there.
Yeah.
But I also think we need to see a trend on what's happening with our students in getting into where they want to go. And maybe that's how we're directing them, how they're, you know, whatever, but I wasn't happy to see that data point gone last year, and so I wanted to make a point of, I know what's,
You do have the seniors accepted to first choice school and accepted to one of their top 3.
oh, that's in there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
Oh, I missed
basically,
that.
it was
Sorry.
basically because.
Last year it was gone, so I would.
That's why we end up putting that slide in this year, because
Okay,
we knew
okay.
people
Sorry
wanted to talk
about
about
that.
it.
Yeah, so we
Sorry.
went back to
Okay.
So 85% are,
Yep,
Yeah.
okay,
Got
sorry
into
about
their
that, I
top
missed it
3
last year.
schools.
Okay, great.
You know, and another thing I would just want to point out too, I think if you take a look at that AP growth chart,
Yeah.
that's a pretty significant chart. You know, in the last 4 years,
Yeah.
we've increased the amount of students taking rigorous courses here at the high school, and we continue to do as well or better than any other school in the Durgan state. So I think that's an awesome thing.
And just to speak to your point, the tests are very meaningful, I know, to the teachers. I mean, it's very high stakes. Once a student takes the score, they can takes the test, they can choose not to send that score to any of their colleges. We own it. When we, you know, as a school, as a teacher, they come back to us. So one of the complications that's been a challenge, I think, is most of our students are already accepted by the time senior APs come along. So that as it's sort of like as a motivational piece, that doesn't figure in as heavily to their, that does not figure into their calculus. And it's, Principal, you can kind of mention it, we're having conversations with students, we've talked with the different teams because we care about the outcomes. And it's, there are a couple possibilities here, and I think Dr. Lutzy sort of mentioned it, that for AP English literature and composition, most have already earned a high score on the Lang test. They can't get any more credit in college for that. So all that external motivation has sort of been removed for them, other than, they signed up for the test. Yeah.
And out of fairness, I think that many of our students take multiple APs.
Right.
So they use that rationale as a way to decide, to sort of determine where to place their focus in the run-up to the tests, because they take so many, their time is limited, and so if they know that the results on that won't matter for them, but maybe the results on something else will, they're going to focus elsewhere, and they may still come in and certainly give it their best shot, but they're not preparing because they don't have the time given the other sort of stresses on their limited hours outside of the school day. So it's challenging, and I'm speaking from firsthand experience.
It confounds clear policy decision because there's all these all these potential factors from making it sort of a broad missive, like, oh, we should do this then instead, because there's all these little nooks and crannies there. Yeah.
But again, overall, I think we, as a school, in the system, in the community, should be really proud. I mean, the increase in the number of students taking AP courses is tremendous here. If you look comparison to almost any other place, and the amount of students that are getting 3s or better, it's really quite impressive.
Well, and that's also a credit to the folks in the room, only to say that we have been increasing the opportunities for students to take APs beyond those core classes, so that students that have interest and aptitude in a variety of different ways have an opportunity to take college level course. And we were just talking today about the AP psychology course, which was added a few years ago, but there's many of them that are available now to students that go beyond that core to give them an opportunity to stretch a little bit and to try their best. And that's thanks to the curriculum work that's been going on and that vision of trying to provide as many opportunities as possible for as many students as possible.
Other questions? Jen?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. I also have a lot of firsthand experience in this, and what you guys are doing is tremendous. I mean, I was literally at a school today, and they were talking about, how some schools have so much more than other schools. We are so fortunate to have this team and to have all this variation and depth in these classes. Even the computer science example that you gave, the additional class, like now my son, that's what he's pursuing in school, because he was able to build on that first year and be able to go into that second class, and he loved it so much. And so thank you for all you do. We really appreciate it. Quick question, just on that seniors report, just one question on the applied under an early program. 74% of the kids applied either ED or EA, I'm assuming?
Or rolling admissions.
Or rolling admissions.
Right.
So then the accepted under an early program, that's not necessarily like first choice or their ED, that's just as a whole, they either got in to their EA, like that's not. Would you ever be able to hone in on, like, let's say if someone ED'd, like how many of those kids actually got into their ED school? Because I know you can ED, but you can also EA too, so it can be.
Right, if they ED, can do both.
And right, I'm just wondering, like, that number, if we could maybe.
We can get it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We can get it.
He's like, yeah, sure. All right, but thank you, everybody.
You mean
By we, I mean Cindy.
But yeah, that's a good number. That's a good idea.
And to go on to that, so it's helpful now that I see this number, the first choice. It would be interesting to see the trend on, kids that got into their first choice, the kids that got into their top 3 choices on a trend, because I can't remember what this number is 3 years ago, so for me, it's more helpful to see what's happening with our trend.
We can try and collect that over time. I know we didn't.
Yeah, we had it. I know we had it. We used to collect it annually, so we should be easily able to get it.
Other than last year, I think we have it in our board presentation.
Right,
our
but
budget presentation.
Yes, so they should be able to quickly put it in the presentation.
Yep.
That'd be great.
Other comments, questions?
Just a quick
Karina?
question. Yeah. I think I asked this last year. Is the trend pretty steady for SAT versus ACT submission for someone who submits just the one score? Is there a trend moving away from, say, SAT towards the ACT, or is it pretty steady?
I think it's pretty steady. I think with the state test coming in as an SAT, a lot of students are choosing to stay with the SAT. Now, where for a lot of years they were moving towards the ACT, now we're seeing it a little bit trend back since the new SAT came in a couple of years ago. Because like that test as well as the ACT. So it is changing. But last year was the first year we asked the questions, and we'll continue to follow that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Penny?
I just want to echo everybody else and commend you on these terrific results. It's fantastic, and it's really the result of all the effort and the attention to detail that all the teachers put in. I guess one thing I was wondering, we've talked about in the past as a board is sort of using the resources that our first-year college students have, and maybe somehow surveying them at the end of their first year. I know we have a group come back mid-year to say, what did you like, what did you miss, what might you have done differently? And I was just wondering if we'd made any strides or had any thoughts about doing that.
Two of our counselors are following up with a survey they did a couple of years ago to follow up again. So we are looking at that again.
Okay,
Very
terrific.
difficult to get those kids to respond to the survey once they've left us.
Right, and I know, okay, so the other thing I know I've asked before, but it's what I get asked a lot of times by people is, do we like these new standards? So we know what they are, we're teaching to them, we're finding the gaps. So just, again, in the different areas, do we like them in all the areas?
I don't
Do we
wanna
think
speak
they're
for everybody,
appropriate
but-
standards for our students to be striving for?
I know Bob and Evan have often talked to me that the SAT came to us, not us going to them, so. So the work that we were doing here already mirrored what their changes were, so that's a good thing.
That's the same for math as well.
Yeah.
We found that when Common Core came out, we were doing pretty much what the standards were asking us to do. We made slight modifications to some of our courses just to ensure that we got, we exposed the children to what they needed to see at different points in time. However, it didn't drastically change what we were doing.
Okay, good.
Any other comments? Deanna? Yeah.
Didn't want to take too much time. So, Anthony, with the math videotaping, I was curious if you had information about what percentage of the math instructors are doing flipped classrooms right now?
It's interesting that you say that. I would say, I can tell you for a fact that with the introduction of Schoology, a lot of my teachers have asked how we can use Schoology to flip our classrooms and what capabilities it has to allow that to happen more seamlessly. If I had to, not guess, but I would say probably a third to probably 40% of our teachers flip their classroom. I know Jen Lee does it in some of her higher level courses. Shannon Treglio is beginning to do it in AP Statistics. But at our last, Katie Marhefke also does it. But at our department meeting last week, we talked about, Schoology, and, a lot of my teachers are quite interested in, like I already said, figuring out how we can utilize, we're all pretty excited about Schoology. It's pretty user-friendly, and we want to see if we can do that kind of work in a way that, gives students, even more exposure to the concepts, to the material. So I would say about a third to 40% are currently doing it often, but we're trending towards more and more of our teachers doing that. And I think Schoology will allow those who might feel a little bit skeptical or uneasy about that whole idea, I think it's going to allow them to feel more comfortable doing it.
And I guess the next question would be, as we get more teachers, or it'd be interesting to start collecting the data about how those kids are doing on the standardized tests and well, just all the standardized tests. Are we seeing any kind of difference in the kids that are doing flipped classrooms versus the kids that are in the
Flipped
traditional?
class, I mean, there aren't teachers that are doing that on a daily basis. I think it's just one, instructional tool that teachers will use occasionally. I can't think of a teacher who's doing it on a day-to-day basis. I think it's just, there are certain times where the material or the concept or the lesson lends itself to doing that type of work. Even those teachers that I mentioned already, I don't think they're doing that on a day-to-day basis. Jen may be doing that in her multivariable calculus class, but in the other classes, it's done often, but not every day.
It seems to me that over time, they'd be building up a library of those videos.
Correct.
That would work, across multiple years. So as they build into Schoology, I would imagine that it'd be a resource that students can go to for additional instruction outside of the traditional school day.
Absolutely.
Or if somebody's absent, they can.
Well,
log
yeah,
into
we're
it,
doing
check
that
it
already.
out.
I mean, I told parents at open house, there's no excuse anymore to not know what happened or what's going on in the classroom, because students have the ability to access all of the resources that we're using on a day-to-day basis, and that'll continue.
Great, thank you. And then just the last question is a science-related question. So, I wasn't from. It was just more for education. I didn't know what the science research program was, and is that so?
Do you want to talk about it?
I don't have it.
It's an awesome program.
We have at least, I guess, a couple dozen this year. I'm not sure of the enrollment, but students who learn how to conduct research in the course, in the classroom, and then do an internship and research projects throughout the year and report on those, so present those to their peers.
So is this like an advanced, like for those who've gone through most of what we've had in the traditional science program, and for the most advanced students, is that?
They're typically students who double up in science.
Okay.
So most of the students are sophomores and juniors. Some seniors still stick with it. But it can be a multi-year course. And it's offered 1 credit per year or half a credit per semester, the same as any other course.
That's great.
And Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but they also, if I recall, are typically placed in internships, or they find internships to do additional work, sort of to conduct the research outside of the classroom environment.
Outside of the classroom.
We've had some very impressive work done by students.
Yeah, Jessica Zick teaches it. She is absolutely fabulous. Excellent track record for placing students in internships locally, some at Yale, some in New York City, a variety of places, and the students really get quite a great experience out of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you. I think it's just amazing what you all are doing. It's tough enough to get to where we are today, but the consistent improvement that's apparent from all the presentations that were made is incredible and inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
I feel fortunate to be the principal. We truly have the best faculty, I think, in the state, and obviously the best kids. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Bill has umbrellas in his office.
And ponchos. Thanks.
That is.
He probably does have extra umbrellas in his office. Great.
Okay. All right, next up are our action items. We have on the list is the All Sports Booster Club donation. Dr. Lutzi, any comments on that?
I'll just do a very quick intro, and you're welcome to ask or talk about anything. But in your Friday package, you saw the New Canaan All Sport Booster Club would like to make a donation of $38,925.16 to the New Canaan Board of Ed. The donation's directly related to the goals of the All Sports Booster Club, which are to provide facility and resource enhancements for NCHS athletics, to recognize and celebrate athletic-related achievements by all NCHS coaches and athletes, and to fund professional development for all coaches and support personnel. The All Sports Booster Club believes that lowering the coach-to-athlete ratio leads to more effective instruction and increases the opportunities for positive athletic experiences. And we've seen the results of these generous donations through the years. We talked about opportunities before in the academic classroom. These donations help us to bring on additional coaches, which allow us to allow us to provide opportunities for more students, essentially. Sometimes we make 2 teams at a level, other times we just are able to bring more students in at any given level, but it really has made a difference for our kids. And as you know, we have around 70% of our students participate in one or more sport each year in athletics. So the donation would be for 3 Class 3 coaches and 7 Class 4 coaches, for a total of 10 coach salaries at $38,925.16. So that's the
It's really amazing
generous
for
donation.
one season too. Right?
One season.
Yeah.
Yep. 10 coaches for one season. Without this, our program would be smaller, and students would have less opportunity.
It's great.
Really generous.
Any questions? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the donation? Penny,
So moved.
second. Katrina, all those in favor? Great, thanks. Next up is comments from the public. Anyone like to be heard?
I promise I will not make this a habit every time I'm here. And your next board meeting, I have to travel for business, so I can't be here. On my way out from
Can
the
you
train.
just,
Oh,
can you
yes,
just repeat
Jennifer
your name?
DeLippe, you missed
Thank you.
my earlier.
Sorry.
Sorry, I can provide it. I wrote this on my way out on the train. I ran for the 5:13 so I could get home for 20 minutes to see my children before coming here, and I did a word count on Word to see if I could make it into the 260 words that should make it for a 2-minute speech. I was over by 60 words and was terrified I wouldn't get all the thoughts in. One of the things that didn't make it in for my plea for you really to consider what this school start time will do across our whole community. As I sit here in awe tonight and what I hear about our high school, and it's the reason I'm here, is that it's not just our children, but it is the community of teachers and educators and everybody who services our schools that will be affected by this. We truly have the best schools in Connecticut. I am a graduate of Staples, and we won't talk about what year that was. And I know how important it is. I was a year ahead in math. I had one teacher who really made it happen. My son, who is in middle school this year, leaped a grade in math, and I'm profoundly grateful for his teachers at South who made that possible. I quake at the thought of disrupting our community so much because our teachers have families, they have routines, and not only what will this do to our community, but what happens in their lives, where we as a group suffer and our students suffer when we can't keep potentially the talent that we have that enables the amazing results that we saw tonight. So I know you are going to continue to hear a lot from us who are concerned about what's happening due to budget constraints and the decisions across the town. But I don't want you to think that we are also not thinking about how do we maintain the greatness that's in our schools with the staffing that is extraordinary. And I would hate to see it all disrupted. And I wish the team that was here from the high school could hear us say, because we are very grateful. And it is so critical to retain that talent because they will be wanted somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thanks. Next are announcements and future business. Dr. Lutzy.
Sure thing. So our next meeting is Monday, October 21st. At that meeting, we will hear our assessment report for grades 3 through 8. We have an update on our school start and end times. That is also the day of our focus group. We had some conversation about that today with our PTC PFA presidents. We will be running the 2 groups, one at 9 to 10:30, another one 10:30 to 12. We've been working through a facilitation guide with our folks. We've got about 65 or so people overall who have confirmed their attendance. And
So we extended the time a little bit.
So we extended the time from an hour to 90 minutes. Yeah.
Great.
And, you know, with, as far as the protocol goes with all of that, we'll be doing what people who participate in groups like this don't always love, which is adhering to a strict protocol. But the goal there is to make sure that all voices are heard and that we have an opportunity to learn from everyone. So the outcome of that will be feedback from the to the Board of Ed from a variety of perspectives from a number of stakeholders throughout. So we look forward to that. I will not have a formal report on that on the 21st because it's that morning that happens, but we will be able to turn it around relatively quickly. But I can give an informal just sort of briefing, a little bit about some of the highlights. We also will have our statement of accounts, since it's the second meeting of the month. And there we go, October 21st.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Julie, second. Katrina, all those in favor? Thank you.
Great, thanks.